I saw him walking one day and I pulled up on like, where you from? He's like, man, I don't bang. And I think he had on some khakis and some chucks. I said, well, you look like you bang. I said, some enemies roll up, they gonna think you bang. If you're in the 60s, you look like you bang. Then I seen where he was headed. I'm like, in the next year or so, you're gonna be from the hood. The only thing that the homies had over his head was that he wasn't from the hood. They're like, oh, he just a rapper. But I said, the next couple years, he gonna grow up. He gonna beat your ass. Well, yeah, early on in his music, we sat in my grandmother's garage. We learned the Pro Tools. I swooped him up out of one of the studios. We started rapping together. And once I started hearing them rapping, I sat down and said, it's all about you.
How does a kid from one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Los Angeles become one of the most respected figures in hip-hop, only to lose his life in front of the business he spent years rebuilding? Most people remember Nipsey Hussle for the way his story ended, but they rarely ask what made him different in the first place. Because unlike many rappers who escaped the streets and never looked back, Nipsey kept returning to the very neighborhood that nearly destroyed him. He built businesses there, created jobs there, he invested millions there, and in the end, that's where he died. This isn't just the story of a rapper. It's the psychological story of a man caught between two identities. One identity wanted success, ownership, and generational wealth. The other was shaped by gang culture, loyalty, and a neighborhood that demanded respect at any cost. Understanding that internal conflict explains almost every major decision Nipsey made throughout his life. His name wasn't always Nipsey Hussle. He was born Ermias Joseph Esquidem in 1985. Growing up in Los Angeles' Crenshaw district during one of the most turbulent periods in the city's history.
Thousands of fans of Grammy-nominated rapper and community activist Nipsey Hussle are in a state of shock today. They are mourning the hip-hop star's ultimately and violent death. Nipsey Hussle was murdered in broad daylight outside a clothing store that he owned in South Los Angeles, and he was killed just before he was about to meet with city leaders and the LAPD about reducing gang violence.
By then, the neighborhood had changed dramatically. Factories had disappeared, crack cocaine had flooded the streets, violent crime had become routine, and aggressive policing became part of everyday life. Children learned survival before they learned adulthood. Yet despite everything, Crenshaw wasn't only violence, it was community. Basketball courts, churches, family businesses, barbershops, and neighborhood pride kept people together, even while poverty surrounded them. Ermias grew up with his mother, Angelica Smith, his father, Duet Esquidem, who had escaped war in Eritrea, his older brother Samuel, later known as Black Sam, and his sister Samantha. Money was always tight, so even as a child he worked whenever he could. Selling candy, shining shoes, mowing lawns, running errands every dollar helped buy school clothes and eased the burden on his parents. His biggest influence wasn't a celebrity, it was his older brother.
What's your name? Where you from?
My name Nipsey Hussle. I'm from LA, Slauson and Crenshaw area, you know.
Well, Nipsey Hussle, that's named after Nipsey Hussle, the comedian. Right?
Correct, yeah.
So talk a little bit about yourself, man. What brings you up here, up and coming, and how come you're not blinging and having all kind of crazy diamonds and all that? I guess you here to get your money right, huh?
All the time. I mean, you know, all that is cool for the image and all that, but all them is liabilities, you feel me? I'd rather invest in some real estate.
Oh, wait, can you repeat that again, man? You're up and coming artist. What did you say you want to do?
I say invest in some assets as opposed to trick off my money on some liabilities like diamonds. You know what I'm saying? Cars that lose value as soon as you drive them off the lot.
So you're trying to get land.
Exactly, homie. A real asset. Take care of my people, because you know it look good, but at the end of the day, you losing value, homie. It ain't appreciating. It's depreciating. It's losing value.
Black Sam understood how to survive in Crenshaw. He understood money, movement, and street culture, and Ermias watched everything he did. Outside the house, another influence was impossible to ignore. The rolling 60s Crips dominated the neighborhood. For many teenagers, joining wasn't simply about crime, it offered protection, identity, and belonging in an environment where those things often felt scarce. Around 14 years old, Ermias became affiliated with the set. Years later, he would explain that he adapted to the culture, even if it wasn't who he truly wanted to be. That contradiction would define the rest of his life. One foot in the streets, 5 foot building something bigger. Unlike many of the people around him, Nipsey had another obsession: computers. After breaking the family's computer, his grandfather refused to buy another one. Instead, he handed Ermias books and magazines about computer hardware.
Sat in Nipsey Hussle on the way up here to the label for to play the music for him and shit. Bang their heads out real quick, tell them why it was such a good idea to give a nigga all that money, feel me? But we on the way, my nigga. Finna go up to Epic.
Piece by piece, he taught himself how everything worked until he eventually built an entire computer from scratch. He spent hours learning from a neighbor who owned one of the only computers on the block, developing a mindset centered around solving problems instead of avoiding them. That curiosity soon expanded into music. His mother enrolled him in a community program where he learned to use studio equipment, produce beats, and understand music from a technical perspective before he ever considered becoming a rapper. School, however, never held his attention. Although one teacher convinced him to improve his grades and he proved he was capable by earning A's and B's, he eventually dropped out anyway. Not because he lacked intelligence, because he believed his future existed somewhere outside the classroom. Business, music, independence. Those became his priorities. That decision came with consequences. After discovering he had dropped out while becoming increasingly involved with drugs and firearms, his mother forced him to leave home. He moved in with his grandmother, where the streets became even closer than before. Around this time, he met Cowboy, another Rolling 60s member whose involvement in music inspired Ermias to begin taking rap more seriously. He originally performed under the name Concept before eventually receiving the nickname that would stay with him forever, Nipsey Hussle, a name inspired by comedian Nipsey Hussle, a name that would eventually become legendary. But long before the fame, before the Grammy nominations, before the businesses, before the Marathon brand, Nipsey was still just another young man trying to survive Crenshaw without letting Crenshaw completely define him.
Until you finally cut a deal with Atlantic Records. Can you tell us about that experience? That you said they came to you on your terms.
Yeah. Majority of my career was indie. I was in the mixtape circuit. I built the brand off mixtapes and touring. And I always had the goal and the intention to do a partnership in the vein of what, Murder Inc. and Irv Gotti did, joint venture, what Rough Riders did, what Rockefeller did, And so it took a while, but after my last release, we was pretty successful in the indie space, and we ended up securing a partnership with Atlantic.
By the late 2000s, Nipsey Hussle had finally broken through. The kid who once sold CDs out of the trunk of his car was now walking red carpets, attending bed events, and standing beside artists he had grown up listening to. On the surface, it looked like the dream had come true. But behind the cameras, another story was quietly unfolding. Back in Crenshaw, another member of the Rolling 60s was watching Nipsey's rise with a very different perspective. His name was Eric Holder Jr., known around the neighborhood as Shitty Cuz. Like Nipsey, he wanted a music career. Like Nipsey, he grew up in the same streets. But while Nipsey's life kept moving forward, Eric's remained stuck. Two men from the same gang, the same neighborhood, yet heading toward completely different futures. As Nipsey's career expanded, so did the complications surrounding it. Touring across the country was supposed to symbolize elevation, bigger stages, bigger crowds, and bigger opportunities. Instead, it became the first major crack in his relationship with some of the people around him. During one tour, the bus was pulled over by police.
I'm standing on the corner of Slauson and Crenshaw, where an LAPD got involved in an officer-involved shooting, and apparently it was in the middle of a fight involving up-and-coming Los Angeles rapper Nipsey Hussle. We don't have too many details right now, but we understand that Nipsey Hussle got into a fight, altercation, with his former manager, and then Nipsey Hussle's brother came over with a gun and started shooting in the air. At that time, the LAPD arrived and attempted to shoot Nipsey Hussle's brother, but we're not sure if he was hit. We got reports that no one was hit, and 4 people have been arrested. Nipsey Hussle, his former manager, and 2 others.
Drugs were discovered inside, someone else was arrested, and although Nipsey himself wasn't charged, rumors quickly spread within his circle that the transportation was allegedly being used as part of a larger drug operation connected to people close to him. Whether true or not, something shifted psychologically. Trust became harder to give. Nipsey started realizing that if he wanted complete control over his future, he couldn't rely on other people to protect it. Gang politics refused to leave him alone. Even as his music career grew, his name continued appearing alongside incidents that he had little control over. A Rolling 60s-related club raid resulted in dozens of arrests, while Nipsey happened to be the headlining performer. Later, tension emerged after he invited YG into his neighborhood to film a music video without first getting approval from influential figures inside the set. Similar issues followed after DJ Khaled filmed in the area, with reports of robbery attempts creating unwanted headlines. Every success seemed to come packaged with another reminder that the streets still expected something from him. Professionally, everything appeared ready to explode. He joined major tours alongside artists like The Game, Kendrick Lamar, and J-Rock, proving he belonged on much bigger stages. His debut album, South Central State of Mind, was announced with genuine excitement. Singles were released, promotional campaigns began, and fans expected the project to finally establish him as one of the biggest new artists in hip-hop. But the album never arrived. Release dates kept getting pushed back. Behind the scenes, executives who believed in Nipsey were leaving Epic Records. Departments were restructuring, and support for his project slowly disappeared. For many artists, that would have been the end. Instead, it became the beginning of something much more important.
Talk about that Crenshaw tape.
Okay.
Now, what made you decide, technically, do you know how many tapes you sold for $100?
Well, the night of the release, we sold 1,000 of them.
Where? Out your trunk?
In LA, out of pop-up shop.
Okay.
In LA, yeah. So after that, we went on tour, and we did a 33-city tour to support Crenshaw. And every day before the concert, we had pop-up shops, and we was running through.
That's smart.
Some markets we ran through a couple hundred. Some markets we ran through, another 1,000. So we just kept printing them because people kept asking for them.
Did you ever give them for maybe $89.99? 67.37.
99.99. They were exactly $100.
Yeah, I need a blue note, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We need that C note.
You never wavered.
Nah, because it'll throw off the campaign. It was branded as a $100 CD. So
whose idea was that, man?
It was a team effort. It was something I brought to the team, and then everybody added on to it. You know what I mean?
It was really smart.
Thank you.
It
bro.
showed that this isn't just a $22, $25. It's not an $18 mixtape. This is something this is a peak work of art.
100%.
And it's worth $100. And your fans supported it. Obviously, Jay.
Yeah.
So it was a really good idea.
No.
It was really smart.
How many copies did Jay-Z buy?
He bought 100 copies. You know what I mean? So he sent us a wire.
Epic Records eventually gave Nipsey something far more valuable than promotion. They allowed him to operate through his own imprint, All Money and Records. At the time, it didn't seem revolutionary. Looking back, it completely changed the direction of his career. Rather than depending on a label to build his future, Nipsey started believing he could build it himself. That philosophy quickly spread beyond music. During the Hustle in the House music video, everyone wore simple Crenshaw t-shirts. Fans immediately began asking where they could buy them. There wasn't actually a clothing line yet, but the demand revealed something Nipsey hadn't fully considered before. People weren't only buying his music anymore, they were buying into his identity. Around the same time, Black Sam returned home after serving over 2 years in prison. Together, after being repeatedly harassed by police while selling merchandise outside, one officer sarcastically suggested they stop standing on street corners and simply open a store. Instead of taking it as an insult, they treated it like business advice. They found an empty storefront, signed the lease, and unknowingly laid the foundation for what would eventually become the Marathon Clothing. Offers from major labels continued arriving. Rumors exploded that Nipsey was preparing to sign with Rick Ross and Maybach Music Group, after Ross publicly teased MMG West. Fans believed the deal was already done. Nipsey shocked everyone by walking away.
I was looking for artists. TD told me to go get Nip. I went and seek Nip out of all the people I already been interviewing and talking to. And he was the shining light. He was the diamond in a pile of whatever. We had made a couple of moves and was trying to move through a couple of doors, and I vastly found out that I couldn't go through these doors. So that's when I went and got Steve Lobel. And I went and got Steve, let Steve hear the music. Steve felt the same way I felt about the music. And I was like, boom. So I signed Nipsey to Unique Music, to my to Ari Mr. Astrodome, to my label, to Unique Music. And then Steve was 10% management and I was 10% management because it didn't make no sense for us to go get another manager.
Right.
And so we started pushing on that. So I signed him to it. It was signed to a 10-year production contract, which started in 2009, which would end 2019.
Crazy.
Hello.
The money was tempting. The exposure would have been massive. But psychologically, something inside him had changed. Independence had become part of his identity. Signing another major contract would have contradicted everything he had spent years preaching. He wasn't rejecting success. He was rejecting dependence. Around the same time, conflicts with influential figures from his own neighborhood continued growing. Reports suggest disagreements centered around permission, control, and who had authority over business being conducted inside the community. Nipsey increasingly wanted ownership over his own decisions. Others believed certain rules still applied regardless of his success. That difference in philosophy quietly widened the distance between him and people who had once been important allies. Then another devastating loss arrived. Stephen Fast Donaldson, one of the men who helped build the marathon business alongside Black Sam, was shot and killed outside a marijuana dispensary. Fast wasn't simply another friend lost to violence. He represented everything Nipsey was trying to create: legitimate business, community ownership, and a future outside the streets. Losing him reinforced something Nipsey had learned repeatedly throughout his life: success didn't protect the people you loved. Even so, he refused to slow down. In 2013, Nipsey released the Crenshaw mixtape using an idea that many believed was completely insane. Instead of selling it for $10 like every other mixtape, he charged $100 per copy. Critics laughed. They insisted nobody would ever pay that much for independent music. Every copy sold out almost immediately. Jay-Z himself purchased 100 copies, spending $10,000 simply because he respected the vision. The money mattered, but the message mattered more. Nipsey had proven that ownership could create more value than popularity. His personal life was changing too. Around this period, he met actress Lauren London during the same promotional run for Crenshaw. Their relationship developed quietly, away from unnecessary attention, and in 2016 they welcomed their son, Crossermias Askidam. Becoming a father added another psychological layer to everything Nipsey was building. Legacy was no longer about leaving behind successful albums. It became about creating opportunities that would outlive him. His business empire expanded rapidly. Elite human hair opened. Marathon clothing evolved into a smart retail concept using RFID technology that unlocked exclusive digital content through purchased merchandise. He partnered on Vector 90, creating a STEM center designed to connect young people from Crenshaw with careers in technology instead of gang life. Every investment reflected the same underlying philosophy. He wasn't trying to escape the neighborhood anymore, he was trying to rebuild it. Then Victory Lap finally arrived. Released in February 2018, the album debuted inside the Billboard Top 5, becoming the commercial breakthrough fans had waited years to see.
Now, I'm on a phone, he FaceTimed me. So he FaceTimed me and stuff like that. He was like, Nipsey just got killed. I didn't hear that, so I hang up with him. I called Nipsey, and I'm like, Nipsey, what's up? He was like, oh, what's up with it? And I was like, I love you, cuz, or whatever, like, because my cousin is Nipsey baby mama. You get what I'm saying? So it was like, I could have probably stopped it, or it had it.
Stop what? Fuck you mean? That fuck you talking about?
No, because listen. So after I talked to Nipsey, and I was like, "Yeah, I love you, cuz," or whatever like that. I'll see you later, or whatever. So I hung up the phone. I thought Big U gave wrong information. 30 minutes later, the homies blowing me up like they just killed Nipsey, and so I'm like,
wait. You get a call from Big U telling you Nipsey just got killed.
Yeah.
You panic, called Nip. Nip answered the phone.
Yeah, and
you like
just talking on regular. So it's like at the end of the day, I didn't even think about it because
you don't even warn him that you got that call from dude.
No, because their relationship was so fucked up. It'd be like they be hot one minute, then they be cold the next minute. And I got it.
So you think he hit you a little too early?
Yep, he hit me a little bit too early because the homie Shitty double back 3 times. You get what I'm saying? And first he shot him, boom, go into the alley, came back and shot him, boom. It wasn't good enough, and then he came back and he shot him again.
Songs like Hustle and Motivate, Double Up, Grinding All My Life, and Racks in the Middle transformed Nipsey from respected independent artist into a nationally recognized figure. His Grammy nomination validated everything he'd spent years trying to prove. But perhaps the most remarkable part wasn't the music, it was everything happening around it. He purchased the strip mall at Slauson in Crenshaw, the same area where police had once chased him for selling CDs and t-shirts. Inside that property stood Marathon clothing, restaurants, barbershops, community businesses, and youth-focused investments. Every building represented something deeper than profit, represented psychological victory. The neighborhood that once seemed impossible to escape had become the place he wanted to transform. Yet while Nipsey's world kept expanding, someone else from that same neighborhood was moving in the opposite direction. Eric Holder's music career had gone nowhere. According to later reports and court testimony, accusations of cooperating with authorities had badly damaged his reputation. He allegedly suffered serious injuries after being assaulted, and people close to him claimed his mental health deteriorated afterwards. Drug use reportedly increased. Isolation replaced belonging. Respect disappeared. While Nipsey spent every year creating more ownership, more purpose, and more opportunities, Eric Holder was losing all three, and eventually those two paths would cross one final time. The evidence against Eric Holder only continued to grow. Surveillance cameras captured nearly every stage of the attack. Witnesses described the confrontation. Ballistics connected the recovered firearms. Rianita Nicholson, the woman who unknowingly drove him to and from the Marathon store, became one of the prosecution's most important witnesses. The case itself wasn't particularly complicated. The psychology behind it was, because one question remained. How does someone murder a man from his own neighborhood? Someone from the same gang? Someone they had known for years? The answer begins with something psychology calls relative deprivation. This theory explains that people don't judge their success by objective standards. They compare themselves to the people around them. Two men can grow up equally poor, but if one becomes a millionaire while the other stays exactly where he started, the second man often feels poorer than he actually is, not because his life became worse, but because somebody else's became dramatically better. Eric Holder and Nipsey Hussle shared remarkably similar beginnings.
He was different, bro. Like, they took one, like, his spirit was different, man. His energy was different. And you know how I know this, bro? Because I ain't know him like that. I cried for like 15 minutes this morning.
Both came from the rolling 60s. Both tried pursuing music. Both wanted respect. But while Nipsey transformed pain into purpose, Eric appeared to become trapped inside resentment. Every new business Nipsey opened, every interview he gave, every award he received was another reminder of everything Eric had failed to become. Psychologists refer to this as malicious envy. Unlike admiration, which motivates someone to improve themselves, malicious envy creates the desire to pull successful people back, down. Instead of thinking, I want what he has, the person begins thinking, if I can't have it, neither should he. That distinction is critical. Nothing suggests Eric walked into the Marathon store planning a peaceful conversation that somehow spiraled out of control after one sentence. According to testimony, he left the scene, had time to think, retrieved firearms from the vehicle, changed his clothing, returned, opened fire, briefly walked away, returned again to continue shooting, then kicked Nipsey before fleeing. Those actions indicate repeated decision points rather than a single uncontrollable emotional explosion. From a psychological perspective, this resembles what researchers describe as narcissistic injury. Individuals with fragile self-esteem often build their identity around respect and reputation. When that identity is publicly challenged, especially by someone viewed as higher status, the humiliation can feel psychologically unbearable. Being confronted about snitching allegations in front of other people, immediately after hearing his girlfriend compliment Nipsey, and then watching Nipsey continue interacting comfortably with everyone around him, may have intensified that perceived humiliation. It's important to understand that humiliation itself doesn't create murderers. Millions of people experience embarrassment every day without becoming violent. The difference lies in how someone processes that emotion. For Eric, available evidence suggests anger became externalized rather than managed. Instead of accepting responsibility for his own circumstances, the blame appeared to shift onto the person standing in front of him. Meanwhile, Nipsey's psychology had moved in the opposite direction. Throughout his life, nearly every traumatic experience pushed him toward building something instead of destroying it.
Like, nah, son was a real one, man. And it's like, he didn't do nothing wrong. We could argue he could have been smarter about it, not said nothing, or there's somebody else could have said it. But at the end of the day, he didn't do nothing wrong.
Childhood poverty became business ownership. Gang culture became community investment. Prison sentences suffered by people close to him became employment opportunities for returning citizens. Even on the day he died, he wasn't standing outside selling music or promoting himself. He was helping carry Lathan, a man recently released after 25 years in prison, trying to give him clothing and another chance at life. That contrast makes the ending even more tragic. One man spent years turning suffering into purpose. The other appeared to let suffering become resentment. In the end, both paths collided in the same parking lot where they had both grown up. Nipsey Hussle's story was never really about becoming a successful rapper. Music was simply the vehicle. His real mission was proving that someone from South Central Los Angeles could own businesses instead of just working in them, build opportunities instead of waiting for them, and leave behind infrastructure instead of headlines. Ironically, the very neighborhood he refused to abandon became the place where his life ended. But perhaps that's why his legacy survived. Buildings can close, businesses can fail, albums eventually stop selling, yet ideas are much harder to kill. Nipsey's philosophy of ownership, independence, and investing back into the community continues influencing entrepreneurs, artists, and young people long after his death. In that sense, Eric Holder succeeded only in taking a life. He failed to destroy the movement behind it, because the marathon was never just one man. It was an idea, and ideas don't bleed. The courtroom ultimately became less about proving who pulled the trigger and more about answering why it happened. Eric Holder's defense never seriously disputed that he was the shooter. Instead, they argued that the killing wasn't planned. According to the defense, this was a crime committed in the heat of passion, after Holder felt publicly humiliated by being confronted over rumors that he had cooperated with law enforcement. Within gang culture, being labeled a snitch can carry enormous consequences, and the defense claimed those words triggered an uncontrollable emotional response rather than a calculated execution. His attorneys also focused heavily on his mental health. Holder had previously been diagnosed with schizophrenia, had reportedly experienced paranoia, claimed to hear voices, and had spent time receiving psychiatric treatment. They portrayed him as psychologically unstable, arguing that his deteriorating mental condition impaired his judgment and decision-making. The prosecution presented a very different picture. Jurors repeatedly watched surveillance footage showing Holder leaving the area after the initial conversation, returning to his vehicle, retrieving firearms, changing his shirt, walking back toward Nipsey, opening fire, briefly walking away, then returning multiple times before firing additional shots and kicking Nipsey in the head. Afterward, he threatened the driver who took him away from the scene. Two prosecutors, each of those actions represented another conscious decision rather than an uncontrollable emotional outburst. Their argument was simple. This wasn't a spontaneous explosion of anger, it was deliberate. On July 13, 2022, the jury agreed. Eric Holder Jr. was convicted of first-degree murder and convicted for the shootings of the two surviving victims. He was later sentenced to 60 years to life in prison. Legally, the criminal case reached its conclusion. Emotionally, almost nothing changed. For South Los Angeles, Nipsey Hussle wasn't simply another successful rapper who had been murdered. He represented proof that someone from Crenshaw could return home after achieving success instead of abandoning the community that raised him. He invested in businesses, created jobs, opened technology programs, and encouraged ownership over dependency. His death wasn't just viewed as losing an artist. It felt like losing one of the few people actively changing the direction of an entire neighborhood. After the conviction, speculation surrounding broader street politics continued circulating online. Various theories connected the murder to larger conflicts and long-time tensions involving influential figures from the neighborhood. Some people believed others may have benefited from Nipsey's death. Others pointed toward old business disagreements in street politics. However, despite years of speculation, no court has found evidence establishing that anyone besides Eric Holder participated in planning or carrying out the murder. Separate criminal cases involving other individuals and unrelated federal investigations have fueled further public discussion, but those matters remain legally distinct. Rumors continue to exist, yet rumors are not evidence, and no additional person has been convicted in connection with Nipsey Hussle's killing. What cannot be disputed is what happened afterward. On April 11, 2019, tens of thousands gathered inside the Staples Center to celebrate Nipsey Hussle's life. His family members, friends, fellow artists, community leaders, and political figures all paid tribute. Lauren London delivered one of the ceremony's most emotional speeches, while messages of respect arrived from across the country, including recognition from former President Barack Obama, acknowledging Nipsey's commitment to serving his community. Following the memorial, a 25-mile procession carried Nipsey through South Los Angeles, Inglewood, Watts, and Crenshaw. Thousands lined the streets to say goodbye. The procession passed the Marathon store, the same place where he had invested years of work trying to rebuild the neighborhood that had shaped him. It became more than a funeral, became a reminder of what one person's vision had accomplished. Perhaps the greatest irony of Nipsey Hussle's story is that he wasn't killed while chasing success. He was killed after achieving it. By the end of his life, he had become everything he once dreamed of becoming: a Grammy-nominated artist, a successful entrepreneur, a father, a community leader, and an example that ownership could create lasting change where hopelessness once existed. His greatest achievement wasn't simply making music, it was changing the way people thought about independence. He showed that artists could own instead of rent, invest instead of spend, and build businesses that outlived albums. The Marathon wasn't simply the name of a clothing store or a mixtape series. It became a philosophy centered on patience, ownership, discipline, and reinvesting success back into the community that created it. That's why his legacy continues long after his death. Buildings may eventually close, businesses may change ownership. Albums eventually stop climbing the charts, but ideas are much harder to erase. Every entrepreneur who chooses ownership over dependency, every young artist who believes independence is possible, and every person who decides to build something instead of simply chasing fame carries a small piece of the blueprint Nipsey Hussle left behind. Because in the end, the marathon was never about reaching the finish line. It was about leaving behind something that keeps moving long after you're gone.